She didn't call me when she decided to end 2 years of our life. She sent a message that fit perfectly on my phone screen. I don't want to pretend anymore. I still love my ex. I read it 3 times before it started to feel real. Not because I didn't understand the words, but because I didn't understand how someone could erase 2 years with a sentence that short. My name is Carter Whitfield. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, in a neighborhood where every house is designed to look like success. Glass walls, clean lines, curated perfection. The kind of place where people invest heavily in how things appear. I work in commercial real estate development. Precision, negotiation, long timelines. I'm used to things that take months or years to build, which is probably why her message didn't make sense to me. Her name was Sloan Harrington. We met at a charity fundraiser hosted by one of my firm's clients. She was the kind of person who didn't need to speak loudly to be noticed. Composed, deliberate, almost surgical in how she chose her words. That night, she told me she had just moved back to Scottsdale from Boston. Fresh start, she said. New city, new rhythm, new people. I didn't ask about her past. She didn't offer much. And somehow, that silence felt elegant instead of suspicious. We started seeing each other a week later. Not in a chaotic, impulsive way. In a measured, intentional way that made it feel stable from the beginning. Dinner reservations booked in advance. Weekends planned around mutual schedules. Conversations that felt mature, grounded, controlled. Looking back, I realized something now. There was never chaos in our relationship, but there was also never complete honesty. For 2 years, everything looked right. We moved into a house together after 8 months. Split expenses, hosted dinners, built routines. People around us used the word solid. Reliable. Predictable. The kind of relationship that doesn't raise concerns. But stability can sometimes be the cleanest form of illusion. There were small moments I ignored. Moments that didn't fit the picture I had built in my head. She would go quiet when certain songs played. Not emotional. Just distant. She avoided conversations about long-term commitments. Not by refusing, but by redirecting them with precision. She never posted about us online. Said she preferred privacy. At the time, it all felt reasonable. Now it felt curated. The day I received her message, I was in my office reviewing a contract. Numbers, deadlines, signatures. Things that made sense. Her text sat on my screen like a disruption I couldn't file away. I didn't reply immediately. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I needed to understand what I was responding to. 2 years don't just end. They transition, fracture, evolve. They don't disappear in a single sentence. I called her. It rang once. Then it went to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. Instead, I drove home. The house was exactly how we had left it that morning. Minimalist furniture. Neutral tones. Controlled environment. But her absence was loud. Her closet was half empty. Not rushed. Not chaotic. Planned. That was the moment something shifted inside me. This wasn't a sudden decision. This was something she had been preparing for. For how long, I didn't know. Before we go further, I want you to think about this for a second. If you discovered your entire relationship had been quietly ending behind your back, would you want the truth immediately, or would you rather be spared the details? Because what I did next came from that exact question. I went through her office drawer. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Inside, there was a small leather notebook. Sloan wasn't the type to keep emotional journals. At least, that's what I thought. But this wasn't a diary. It was structured. Dates. Short entries. Precise. Like notes someone writes to understand their own decisions. The entries went back over a year. At first, they were neutral. Observations about her work, her routine, our life together. Then, slowly a shift. Mentions of someone named Evan. Not frequent, but consistent. Ran into Evan today. Evan texted after months. Not sure what that means. The tone wasn't dramatic. It was analytical, like she was studying her own emotions instead of experiencing them. Then the entries became more direct. Still thinking about Evan more than I should. Carter deserves clarity, but I don't have it yet. I stopped reading for a moment. Not because I couldn't continue, but because I realized something uncomfortable. She had been honest. Just not with me. The final entry was dated 3 days before her message. I can't keep performing stability when my emotions aren't aligned. Ending this will hurt him, but continuing would be worse. I closed the notebook. For the first time since reading her text, I understood something clearly. She didn't leave because of impulse. She left because she believed staying would be dishonest. And that realization didn't make it easier. It made it heavier. That night, she finally called me back. Her voice was steady, not cold, not emotional, controlled. I didn't want to do this in person, she said. Because you knew I'd ask questions, I replied. A pause. Yes. There it was. Not cruelty, not avoidance. Precision again. Is it him? I asked. Yes. No hositashchen. No attempt to soften it. Just clarity. Have you been seeing it? No. Another pause. But I've been thinking about him for a long time. That sentence landed differently than anything else she had said. Because thoughts don't leave evidence. They don't break rules. But they could dismantle something just as effectively. Why now? I asked. Because I realized I wasn't choosing you fully, she said. And you deserve someone who does. There was again. Not blame. Not justification. Just a statement that made it impossible to argue. Half-love isn't something you can negotiate into becoming whole. The next few minutes felt less like a breakup and more like a debrief. Logically structured, emotionally restrained, and somehow, that made it harder to process. Because there was nothing to fight against. No betrayal in the traditional sense. No lies I could expose. Just a truth she had taken too long to admit. After the call ended, the silence in the house felt different. Not empty. Final. Over the next week, the practical side of separation unfolded. We divided finances, updated documents, transferred ownership of the house. Everything clean, efficient, almost professional. And that's when the second shift happened. Not in her, in me. Because clarity doesn't always bring closure. Sometimes it just removes the illusion. Before we move forward, I want you to think about something else. If someone leaves you not because they stopped caring, but because they couldn't care the right way, is that easier to accept or harder? I didn't contact her again after that week. Not because I had no questions left, but because I understood something important. Closure isn't something the other person gives you. It's something you decide to stop chasing. 3 months later, I saw her again. Not intentionally. At a gallery opening downtown. She was with him. Evan Caldwell. Tall, composed, familiar in a way that explained everything without words. They weren't overly affectionate. They didn't need to be. There was a quiet understanding between them that I recognized instantly. The kind we never fully had. She saw me. For a moment, there was hesitation. Then she walked over. Carte. Her voice was the same. Measured. But there was something else now. Certainty. How are you? She asked. I'm better than I was, I said. And it wasn't a performance. It was accurate. She nodded. I'm glad. No apology. No attempt to reopen anything. Just acknowledgement. And strangely, that felt appropriate. Because apologies are meant for mistakes. And what she did wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. We stood there for a few seconds longer than necessary. Not uncomfortable. Just aware. Then she returned to him. And I left. Driving home that night, I realized something I hadn't understood before. The pain wasn't about losing her. It was about realizing I had been part of something incomplete. And I hadn't seen it. Not because I was naive, but because I wanted the version of the relationship that made sense. The stable one. The predictable one. The one that looked right from the outside. But relationships aren't defined by how they appear. They're defined by what's happening underneath. And underneath, she had been somewhere else for a long time. That doesn't make her a villain, but it does change how I understand what we had. It wasn't fake, but it wasn't whole either. And maybe that's the hardest version of the truth to accept.